Every fan remembers this one. It's a Sisko anti-hero story, wrapped in a 5-act do-si-do with the devil himself.
Casualty List prompts Sisko to cross the threshold and ask Garak if he may have this dance. Garak leads Sisko by the hand through one ends justifies the means progression after another until it looks like this whole mess is actually going to work. Senator, it's a fake! Vreenak foils the whole thing. Garak looks like a dunce, and Sisko gets his comeuppance. Oh, but wait, Garak's not a dunce, but way more sophisticated in the evil arts of espionage than any of us ever gave him credit. And Sisko's love-hate relationship with Garak resolves more love-hatey than ever before, as Sisko might even hate himself after this devilish tango.
Settle down, nerd. Your neurons are overloading.
It's not just a slide into the morally ambiguous. It's a delightful celebration of the character, Elam Garak. It's Sisko asking Garak to lead him up the garden path of treachery. And all of it is wrapped in DS9's unique brand of character-driven storytelling. Some fans actually think it spoiled Sisko's character by giving him an anti-hero story arc. We'll address this and other crucial questions as you warp alongside the dumbest geek in the galaxy into the beauty that is Season 6, Episode 19, In the Pale Moonlight.
I'll be along shortly to say hello.
These are the majestic flights of the dung beetle. Its ongoing mission to harvest dung and spew it forward in the form of crappy reviews.
Sisko's anti-hero journey.
Life isn't all unicorns and rainbows, darling.
If we look at Sisko's story in this episode through the framework of Campbell's hero's journey, Sisko does play an anti-hero, an inversion of the typical hero. In this case, Sisko adopts the evil arts of espionage, which result in a moral utilitarian arc. A degeneration from Captain Sisko's typically clear moral discipline. Likewise, Garak is an inversion of the mentor archetype, sought out by Sisko and warned at the threshold that this dance will pervert him.
And it may be a very messy, very bloody business.
Are you in or out?
Sisko persists and chooses the moral gray. Through Garak's mentorship/manipulation, Sisko returns himself as an accomplished manipulator, or at least an accomplice to one, yet proclaiming he was justified, and believing it, sort of. In that bookended narration, Sisko is trying hard to convince himself that he's justified, and it speaks to the whole paradigm of the slippery slope concept. Avery Brooks pulls this off with a performance that is perfectly anxious, restless, unsure, while at the same time definitely sure, flamboyantly sure, all in a ruse to try and convince his own conscience. From the bold to the subtle, Brooks delivers the goods, the peak towards Vreenak, to reinforce that his character is nervous and unpracticed in the art of deceit. His soul isn't as perverted as master manipulator Garak. Not yet, anyway.
Do we want it to be? Do we not want it to be? Fabulous stuff.
One small secession at a time, Sisko sells a chunk of morality and finds ways to justify it. He says it flat out here.
My father used to say that the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
And yet he's walking the road anyway. And there is something very accurate about that.
Haven't we all done this on some level? Isn't it healthy to be antagonistic about our own actions and motives? And perhaps a story that illustrates the own psychological truths about the dangers of the slippery slope is just what the doctor ordered.
Seeing our hero journey down the road of anti-hero, aided by anti-mentor, begs us the question, what decisions will we make when hard questions and unscrupulous but sympathetic voices come calling?
For the fans that hate what this episode did to Captain Sisko's character, I sympathize, but it's a creative sacrifice that paid dividends.
A story like this is so well worth telling, and a strong character and a strong actor behind it add all the more power. To me, Captain Sisko doesn't resolve as evil or anywhere near it. The anxiety-filled monologue at the end speaks to the endurance and the quality of his true character. An anti-hero arc tells the story of a mistake. An enduring hero wears mistakes on their conscience with scars. And I, for one, hear and see a lot of pain in that performance. Yes, DS9 leaves it open for you to decide if you'd like to catalog Sisko's deeds as mistake or triumph. But struggle, if not regret, is written into Sisko's lines and Avery Brooks' performance. A hero scarred is a hero who can be redeemed, and a hero scarred sometimes can show us how to deal with our own wounds or prevent us from becoming wounded.
Here lies the gift of In the Pale Moonlight, and it's best delivered by Captain Benjamin Sisko. So yes, the anti-hero arc is worth it. And no, it doesn't stain Starfleet or Sisko's character.
Modern Trek did that.
Bingo.
Is the protagonist really Garrick's skill as a spy?
Oh, honey, Garrick's on this week. It's gonna be good.
I'm a Garrick geek, and I remember on first hearing these words.
But there is someone on this station who specializes in gaining access to places where he is not welcome.
And seeing that cut to Garrick, I was hooked. I knew this was going to be great, and there is nothing that I wanted more than additional proof of Garrick's mastery of psychology, wit, and manipulation. Garrick's not a villain. He's not a hero. He's on that DS9 spectrum of moral gray towards the darker end, with an ability to move around quite a bit. Going back to Campbell, Garrick is the archetype of the shapeshifter in the true literary sense, opposed to Odo's literal sense.
See what I did there? My fondness of Garrick isn't isolated. Come on, admit it. And I see that the action of the plot pretty closely follows our romanticism of Garrick's skill as a spy.
In the intro, he's solicited to conjure up a scheme, warning Sisko that he will find this very messy, and the dramatic tension of the whole story in one neat nutshell is laid out in the words of Garrick. As the action rises, Garrick is moving pieces around faster than Data in a game of 3D chess, always thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead of Sisko. We are enthralled. It seems we're getting the payoff we want. Garrick's master espionage in exhibition. We are loving it.
The climax will hit in the presentation of the data rod, but take a close look at this clever plant in the scene before the senator offboards his ship onto the station.
So while you're entertaining the senator in the boardroom, I'll take the opportunity to make a quick search of his ship's database for work.
What if you get caught?
Oh, I think that's highly unlikely. I assure you, they'll never know I was even near their ship.
Garrick will plant the bomb. The DS9 writers have planted the seed in our memory. Then there's that famous moment when the action falls. Vreenak sees through the scheme. Garrick looks like a failure. And I personally remember thinking, oh man, they shouldn't trash Garrick's skill as a spy. That's the whole essence of his character. This episode was great, but now it's spoiled one of the series' best characters. This is dumb.
Life returns to the ordinary world in failure. Sisko is back at square one, reading the casualty reports. Then we get that news.
We just received word from Starfleet Intelligence that a Romulan shuttlecraft carrying a high-ranking senator has just been destroyed.
And see this reaction.
Which senator? Senator Vreenak.
Followed by this reaction.
Excuse me.
And this reaction.
This epic scene is reminiscent of the climax in Where Eagles Dare. Garrick now lays out the entire 3D chessboard, and we see that he's actually way more of a master spy than we ever conceived of. We thought he was 2 to 3 steps ahead, more like 4 or 5, more like he knows these people's psychologies better than they do. And it hits the power of this theory home like a ton of bricks. This episode said to us, we're gonna show you Garrick's mettle as a spy? Well, hold on to your hats. The whole 5-act skeleton is built to play on our love of Garrick's spycraft. And it pays dividends, hooking us with the false finish to lay the goods deeper than ever. Our resolve is thank you. We got our curtain unveiling moment on Garrick's depth that we've been waiting for since Season 2's The Wire.
The Deep Space Nine formula.
The Masters of Disasters. DS9 was dark, gritty, and real as rain, honey.
On the surface, doesn't there seem to be something particularly DS9 about this episode? Themes exploring the moral gray, character faults that make us explore the weaknesses within us, an ability to blur the lines between episodic and serialized with self-sustaining stories that still work within a longer unfolding plot. All of it driven by deep character exploration that underpins the meaning of it all.
Roast me now, but I don't really care for the Dominion war plot. Galactic space battles are visual theater to me, not emotional or intellectual theater. But Deep Space Nine delivers the latter in spades. It's not the plot of In the Pale Moonlight that interests me. I'm not the fan who ponders over whether this fictional tidbit in the story had been different. Would the founders have redesigned their deployments? Would the Dominion have taken over and reshaped the fate of the Alpha Quadrant? No, to me, the plot is just an excellent means to relay a theme through story.
The plot puts our theme in the context of a complex, political, interstellar conflict, which is the perfect stage for an exhibition of the convoluted ways we all justify means to ourselves when we want the ends so badly. In the Pale Moonlight story gives us an ability to achieve a sympathetic viewpoint, to understand other people's choices and their actions with more discernment and tolerance. We understand a little better how easy it may be to make imperfect or even repugnant decisions.
This is what Deep Space Nine does so well, exploring themes without bold proclamations of right or wrong, doing so instead by peeking into our psychology through these deep characters that act as avatars for aspects inside of us.
Throughout the series, we see stories exploring Quark's greed, Bashir's enthusiasm, O'Brien's easygoing everyman, Kira's rebellion, and in this episode, Garrick's moral pessimisms contrasting against Sisko's moral principles, which weave a camel's nose under the tent warning that, hey, right, wrong, or otherwise, it starts with introspection, critical eye on what I'm doing, why and how I justify it.
In the Pale Moonlight is one of many brilliant stories told by a Deep Space Nine production team that had perfected this recipe 6+ years in. A Star Trek version of Breaking Bad. They deterred a few, but enthralled a many. A classic installment in the pantheon of great Trek.
Vaporized enough neurons for now, or ready for more?
Travel further with yours untruly in a nerd's analysis of The Inner Light. Or join the next majestic flight as we travel Enterprise's period piece, Carbon Creek.